No matter where you fall on the political spectrum, you have 100% heard the term liberal. Either you yourself have used the term to describe your own ideology, or you use it to describe someone else's ideology, or someone ascribed the word to you and you don't even identify with the ideology, the latter two usually being used in a negative context. But with all this chatter, it raises one very important question. What the heck is a liberal? Well, according to Google/Oxford, here are the two definitions of the word liberal: willing to respect or accept behavior or opinions different from one's own, open to new ideas, or relating to or denoting a political and social philosophy that promotes individual rights, civil liberties, democracy, and free enterprise. Guess it makes sense. This video was rather short. Thanks for watching this video. Be sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, and click the bell to notify that. Wait, hold on. What about all these different branches of liberalism? You see, because it seems like when you put any other label in front of it, all of a sudden it magically changes definitions. So how am I supposed to know what the term liberal itself means? Wait, hold on. The guy who built the New Deal and the guy who killed it both identify as liberal? How does that make sense? Wait, hold on. Not that long ago, it was used as a pejorative for the far left, but now the far left uses the term to point the finger at people who are not left-wing enough. All of this information is completely correct? How is this possible? Well, we're gonna have to go all the way back to the beginning. Liberalism started to become a mainstream political movement during the Age of Enlightenment. The term came from the Latin word liber, which means free. The most prominent thinker who pushed for liberal ideas was a man by the name of John Locke. This version of liberalism was relatively basic, mostly focusing on the liber part, believing the governments need the consent of the governed to rule over people, but they were only supposed to protect people's unalienable rights that were given to them by the natural order. And as this philosophy's inception was around the time of the beginning of an economic system known as capitalism, his version of what was considered unalienable rights used capitalism as a stepping stone, noted by the fact that the word property appears 109 times in his Outline of a Perfect Society to Treatises of Government. This version of liberalism has since rebranded to classical liberalism in the 19th century, as the term liberal started going through changes around the time. As classical liberalism had begun to gain actual political success, people started seeing it as more than just an idea, but now as a way of governance. At first, things were going good. Capitalism usually has a good beginning, but as industrialization and urbanization began to arise, many people started realizing that laissez-faire capitalism did not actually have the best of intentions towards them, and many individuals, under the banner of new liberals, started shifting what the term liberalism meant. These type of liberals argued that true liberty can only be accomplished when people's social and economic circumstances are raised, and the only way to raise them is for the government to become more involved with the economy. While they were still broadly capitalist-minded, they were definitely not fans of the invisible hand, and were okay with working with socialists to facilitate some economic interventions. The ideology would start becoming more prominent right before the beginning of the First World War, with liberal prime ministers Henry Campbell Bannerman and David Lloyd George laying the groundwork for the country's first welfare state, but would become even more popular in the lead up to the Second World War, thanks to the likes of FDR in the US and John Maynard Keynes in the UK. This branch of liberalism is broadly known as social liberalism, but since this branch of liberalism became more mainstream, it essentially got shorthanded to liberal, so that meant that anybody who used the original or classical definition didn't fit and had to go under a new term. But depending on what country you're from, there are actually many different name variations for social liberalism. In the UK, it is obviously called New Liberalism. In Germany, it's called Left Liberalism. Spanish-speaking nations usually refer to it as Progressive Liberalism. But in the US, we refer to it as Modern Liberalism. And this particular branch of social liberalism was so prevalent that it actually gets its own section in the video, as that would partially lead into the formation of another branch of liberalism. The New Deal's success in ending the Great Depression and creating the US's welfare state made modern liberalism become the dominant force in US politics for a long while. And I don't say that lightly either. The court was dominated by liberals, both major parties' liberal wings had control of the legislature, and each president elected in this time period was from the liberal wing of the party. Of course, conservatives in both parties were mad, as these liberals were doing two things that they hated: raising taxes on the rich and giving African Americans rights. And while older modern liberals were still sort of in this capitalist sense, there was a new faction within modern liberalism that was breeding more radical action, which were not too enthused with how the current liberals were holding things down. As such, there was a major reaction that shifted to the right, and conservatives regained power. And what they did with this newfound power was not only try to make things go backwards into how the liberals governed, but they wanted to make sure that it wouldn't happen again by demonizing the term liberal. Take this prominent example from Ronald Reagan from his famous health insurance bought record. Ronald Reagan speaks out against socialized medicine.
Now, back in 1927, an American socialist, Norman Thomas, 6 times candidate for president on the Socialist Party ticket, said the American people would never vote for socialism. But he said under the name of liberalism, the American people will adopt every fragment of the socialist program.
And they actually managed to succeed. A term that was attributed to the people who helped build post-war America had now become the equivalent of if you were running as a Nazi or communist. Essentially political suicide. Now, conservatives originally saw the victory in ruining the idea of a liberal gaining power again, but unbeknownst to them, they had actually done something way more sinister. And in order to figure out what they did, we'll have to go down south. While all of this stuff was going on in the US politics, something was going on in the country of Chile. They had elected a socialist president that was going to basically go against the market-oriented politics of the Western world. Unsurprisingly, the US did not like that and helped to depose him. The person who ended up becoming the new leader, Augusto Pinochet, decided that in order to rebuild bridges that the West had burned, he would hire a bunch of economists to create a new economic system for his country. They were known as the Chicago Boys, students from the University of Chicago, under the wing of an economist by the name of Milton Friedman. That economic system would be well known for promoting mass deregulation, privatization, and low government spending. Basically the exact opposite of what Allende wanted to do. These economic reforms, in turn, led to the capitalist West to reopen their doors in Chile, which led to a huge economic boom, which then led the West to go, maybe we should try some of that. And in the 80s, many of these policies made their way to the US and the UK via the leaderships of Margaret Thatcher and good old record boy Ronald Reagan, who were immensely popular and led a new conservative movement. Now you might be wondering, what does this have to do with liberalism? Well, these economic policies were essentially classical liberalism on steroids. As such, the economic system that they built would become known as neoliberalism, and conservatives liked this policy and took it. Meanwhile, the opposition to the conservatives was left in the dust due to certain policies. That was until the 90s rolled around, when we got the rise of Bill Clinton and Tony Blair with something called Third Way, which would essentially take these economic policies, slap a couple of socially liberal policies, and bing bang boom, new ideology. Essentially making what was a center-left opposition now a center-right opposition. And hey, neoliberal had the word liberal in it, so they could still call themselves liberals. And due to this, the right wing in turn shifted to the right Instead of having any form of just normal deregulation, they just went full laissez-faire. So conservatives accomplished way more than what they had initially set to do. They had not only killed liberalism, but they revived it specifically to be a branch of conservatism. Maybe you could see why the term liberal is a little bit confusing online, but hopefully this video can, at the very least, explain it a little bit. Thanks for watching this video. Be sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, and click the bell to notify when a future video of mine comes out. And if you want more content from me, you can go to our website, follow me on Twitter, join my Discord, or consider supporting me on Patreon. I remember that. Spending literally months of my time making some random video that only one person would watch. All because I had some big dream of being some big prominent YouTuber. Almost 9 years later, and I still have not gotten to that point. I can get all the baggage when it comes to being a YouTuber. Burnout, drama, deadlines, copyright problems, but none of the actual benefits that come out of it. Man, how much time did I put into this? I was legitimately trying. Guess it was enough for the sunk cost fallacy, because this literally held me from doing literally anything else. I was legitimately so scared of even attempting another channel because I didn't know if I could continue this success. I thought double-digit subscribers was success. I still vividly remember that small amount of time where I was slowly abandoning this to go to the EPU channel. How scared I was, how excited I was, how liberating it was. Would I soar, would I fall? I don't know, but either way, I jumped and I didn't look back. Damn, that was almost 5 years ago? There are people who stomach this for 5 years? Anniversary's coming up. I don't know what the heck to do.